going into the hands of Xiaolongbao. A bit of a Maokai enthusiast, but there's very good reasoning behind that. And LNG, they're just going to get Ryze again.
You know what? Rinse and repeat. That's going to be Varus. Now, on the other side, Ashe will be picked here, folks.
Do you want to predict everything?
Yeah. What came next, Kitty? Ashe and then what?
Ashe, and then I believe mid lane wasn't... Ooh.
Oh, I mean, now it's just a memory problem.
Now it's just a memory problem. Ashe is going to get locked in there. I think it was the solo laner of NIP in this third position, Renekton.
Yep, it was Renekton,
that gets locked in. On the other side, we're going to get...
What happens next?
I believe it was the jungle. Was it the jungler? No, it wasn't.
Was it
Azir! Please lock in Azir. I've been begging for Azir for the past 2 games. Finally, a long-range mage that can deal with the range, deal with the scaling as this Ryze gets locked in for the 3rd game in a row. And finally, a change of Hysterics. I'm so happy.
I've never heard anyone so excited for Azir. Like, you're the first person in the history of casting that has been cheering on Azir. Everyone else tucking into bed. And you're like, man, let's go. Another drink, let's rave.
Okay. Would you rather see Azir or Swain? Because obviously Azir is the better bird out of the two, so just lock it in for Game 3. Although it's a big snooze fest with the amount of scaling that we already have on the table for this Game 3 so far. But at least there is a change, because NIP, no way they just opt into the exact same draft that they lost on for Game 2. Now, once again, the top lane is going to become the main focus. Jhin, however, this time is going to get taken off the board, so Photic won't be able to have that in his pockets for Game 3, where he won't be playing it for a 3rd time in a row. This Fiora, I think Zika has been playing very good on Fiora so far, so that opens up the entire champion pool again, and Zika has been that Renekton player we've seen in the LPL, especially on LNG, where he's had 6 games on it so far.
So it wouldn't be surprising, as you're saying, for LNG to just look at this Renekton coming off the ban phase. They are continuing to ban down those 80 carries, as the Sivir was still an option here for Photic, but now that's 4 ADs banned by LNG. And it's hard to see what Photic has left, as Vi's going to be taken away as well. Tarzan still without a jungler. Jungle or top lane? What do you want here for Zika? Maybe the counter punch up in top side might be more worthwhile, but you already alluded to the Renekton, so I think that's something we have to keep in mind.
Yeah, Renekton, Camille, all very viable options. Tarzan is hovering the Zac. He has already played it once in this split so far, and it did wonders for the side of LNG. He's going to lock it in.
Let's go.
Let's bounce for Tarzan in this 3rd game. I love it. I love the amount of force that LNG already has in their pockets with this champion getting locked in. But of course, Renekton still can go to either side of NIP or LNG. But obviously saving that counter pick for Zika, who has been performing the best out of everyone in this series, so I'm going to be very surprised on what he picks. But Ezreal's going to get locked in with the Kraken Slayer build getting pretty popular in LPL.
True, it has been, and again, been hitting solo queue up as well. I was just thinking out loud, you know, maybe something like the Gnar that's been seen. Is Invincible really that type of player, or do you want the front line and enable your range of damage? NIP rounded out in the end. That Renekton just been left to the wayside, while Zika has a perfect counter for the top side. Many different options there. Maybe for them, the Gnar looks a little bit more reputable, especially with Zac coming through. Think about the CC combination.
I'm sorry, Hysterics, but Sion, ever since the Shy touched it last night, playing Sion for, I believe, 2 games, I've been a bit scarred, and the Shy's living in my head rent free.
He got a kill. Leave him alone.
He got a kill, but for how many deaths in a row was that?
16.
That's the next question. 18 deaths, and he got 1 kill at the very end in that Game 3. But of course, very big change-ups for the solo lanes of NIP this time around. A lot of scaling has been introduced with the Sion and Azir being locked in. And of course, Ezreal is going to be the ADC this time going to Game 3. A lot of range, first of all. Big range, and it really depends on how NIP plays with the space, especially when you're up against something like the Zac Leona, where the constants on which build that Photic decides to side with this time around. But there are a lot of chances where LNG can just find the early game lead that they want and make it explode.
Well, we are finally on to Summoner's Rift. I'll be curious to watch that Ezreal build as well, as we finally get onto the Rift. Photic start with a long sword and a couple of pots, so let's see how we go as game number 3 finally comes to its conclusion. Or rather, the series does. Game 3's only just begun. And, sorry, Kitty, a bit distracted. I was trying to read the signs in the audience. I was trying to read some of the Chinese characters. However, my Mandarin skills are a little bit scuffed. I saw... You know when... I guess this is really hard because only some people will be at this stage where they can read some parts of the language. Let's say like 10%. And you remember characters, but you're like, is that Chu? Is that Chu? Like, is it... You know... Your brain is so mumbled.
Language, yeah. Mandarin is definitely one of the hardest languages to nail, or at least
it's not just me then.
Fluently.
Yeah.
Not at all. I was unfortunately not paying attention to the signs, so I'm so sorry. If I ever catch one, I'll just read it out to you and try to translate.
Oh, no.
The signs
Next
are very
time,
cute in the crowd.
Next time, you just you test me. You ask me what that symbol is, and I'll try.
Okay. Of course. Very similar stuff for NIP though. They get that lane priority with this Ashe just gonna consistently harass with the amount of range that they have in this matchup once again. The flash! Finally! Aggression!
Yeah, I know. The Shield of Daybreak, right? That's what we wanted to see. Ignite was placed down, but a flash from Zhuo instantly versus Hung's 2 summoners.
Alright, now do that 10 more times with your Hex Flash and E available, and I think Zhuo is going to have a terrible game 3. And that's something that I've been worried for NIP, right? Because they have been limit testing up against all these super teams with their tough schedule coming into week 4. I believe, yes, JDG, top esports, EDG, now LNG, all top of the standings. And all of them have gone to a 1-2 series, and the third game, unfortunately, every single time they just flop completely and it becomes the most one-sided game. So can NIP really redeem themselves with this game up against LNG?
Definitely not good stats, right? As I need to point out in this game number 3, Invincible has actually gone for Comet Sion in the top lane. Kitty wants a bit more lane presence, but this is definitely not something we see every day.
Huh? Sion with the Comet, I mean, yes, you'll win lane, but can you really out-tank the amount of damage that LNG is going to offer as we scale later on into the game? Invincible definitely putting something up in this top lane, so I don't mind. But we'll have to see how it works later on as we reach those team fights. But Xiaolongbao has been enjoying this Maokai a lot, and I just think every time that even NIP's lost, it's not Xiaolongbao's fault in particular, because he always gets the job done. He gets those early objectives and he gets those early heralds. Where can NIP really translate that into a bigger lead though?
It's going to be a question that maybe Xiaolongbao can answer. Moving down to this bottom side, not going to be spotted out by any vision, but the wave right now not in the greatest state as NIP try to draw it in with the slow push against them. But Scuttle just going to be traded off across the map with Tarzan now positioned to the top side. And kind of a similar wave state up at the top laners. I just love right now Invincible doing so much work here with the lane presence from this Comet. But as you said, he is going to be sacrificing some of those tanky stats, some of that health stacking that comes out of grass. Maybe Tarzan can abuse here if he finds an angle, but for now it seems like that answer's going to be no, as he just backs away after his full clip.
You already see the Comet putting a lot of work into this melee versus range matchup, and that's exactly what you want as the Sion, but he is forced to back because he's just using so much mana to get those trades online where he's forced to TP here. But this bottom lane repeated once again 3 times in a row where this Ashe has been so oppressive in lane. I want to see more proactiveness from Tarzan because this time there's been a change up where Zhuo doesn't have flash available in the first 4 minutes.
Yeah, again, using it early from Hung, the ability to pressurize, as you said, seeing it a couple more times from Hung would be absolutely beautiful. Zenith Blade doesn't connect in the brush. Zhuo is just able to walk away in the end as well. But we are fast approaching that level 6 mark for multiple members on both teams, especially Scout here on the Ryze. And Kitty, I think it's important to note that, you know, this time around, having Zach as well, the CC combination, the ability to move to these side lanes is going to be massive for LNG here in this early game.
I wouldn't be surprised if Scout, the second he hits 6, he will just walk towards that bot lane alongside Tarzan with this slow pushing wave that LP has already been setting up in that bottom side. It's going to look very dangerous for the bottom lane of NIP. This top lane just looks like a snooze fest. Of course, Comet's going to spice things up a little bit, but it is going to go even until we do reach the later stage of the game where there's going to be team fights ensuing. But with the Zac being locked in for LNG, right, start ganking people, and I want to see just more aggression for this LNG team composition.
And there it is. Through in the form of an elastic slingshot, but nothing to grab onto. Tarzan just pushes himself into the face of Shalom Bowers. NIP, their bottom lane, are in range of a potential dive. I would say that, however, Shalom Bowers is matching for the time being, so looks like LNG aren't going to be committing to this. Instead, maybe just setting up for the dragon here, while Shalom Bowers plays it cautiously, trying to get this control ward.
Yeah, we're just gonna see LP trying to get this bottom lane pushed in, but they don't really have any gank set up until Shalom is able to flash root someone when it does come to a 3v3 sense. And Scout does have his ultimate available, so if he wants to cheat the tempo and really come in and save the day, if a fight does continue in this bottom side, then I think LNG would happily take that.
So worth noting, the fight does happen out. Top laners will not be able to join. Both teleports were used earlier on to get back to the top lane. As you said, snooze fest, apart from Comet's flying places, like, yeah, we're not going to be expecting too much up here, but instead keeping our eyes towards that first dragon, which was only watered down and then avoided completely. Right now, there's double control ward, aka NIP and LNG just both have one, and are watching the area while, you know, Kitty, even this game, because it's an Ezreal, a little bit more snoozy as well down in the bottom lane.
Yep, for sure, but my main focus is going to be on when Ashe and Maokai does get his level 6 online, because they currently don't have any setup for these team comps, or team fights, sorry, where they're able to opt into fights that they want to take. So Shalom really needs to start clearing his camps and try to rush for that ultimate so they can contest this early dragon.
Not too far behind. A couple of minions, I believe, in the jungle campus. He's sitting on blue buff at the time being around the top side.
Huh?
So yeah, he missed his ulti. Oh, okay, yeah. At least trying to clear the way.
Fair enough, fair enough.
Getting Invincible would have been a bonus. And Scout, you said the minute he got 6. Well, he is level 7, but he is still trying to move up as that ward spots him out, gives information over to NIP, and Scout just immediately has to go back towards mid. Oh, man, okay. A slower early game, Kitty, weren't kidding.
Yep, no one's dying in the first 5 minutes, so that's great. And specifically when both teams have the scaling mid and ADC, they're more than happy to just play into this. But the Herald is going to get started by the side of LNG, and Maokai has hit 6. So every player is rotating here. Who will come out on top for this first major fight is the question.
Well, with Maokai ulti that you wanted to see, I'm going to put some faith in Shalom Bowers. Tarzan might have his own, but a wide area to be spotted here as poking him down at Photic. There's the Nature's Grasp running through. Hung is looking for the center blade. Chen drops and hits on the Photic and cleanses the way. Hung once again goes in melee as here we go. The train to fly through, but it is a miss, of course, because Scout gets them out with their Herald as well. That's something, as LNG got what they came for.
So many ultimates committed to this fight, and it was a 0-for-0 trade. Scout's ultimate coming very clutch, seconds away from Invincible from just cancelling that ult in total. The Herald does go towards the side of LNG though in Zika's hand this time around. And I just feel like with this Herald being going towards the side of LNG, well, of course your Gnar is going to get way faster online now that he is able to get those tower plates. But NIP is just very late to this fight in general, where Invincible is barely getting there before the Herald drops. And with the Ryze available as well, they just kind of got out freely. Hung, although flashing in, didn't get too much. Clutch Ryze saving the bottom lane of LNG. And exactly what they're looking for, because you don't want to bleed in this early game.
Yeah, it was a perfect exit, as you said, clean from Scout, because otherwise that Invincible ulti could have locked down 2, given a couple of kills for Herald, and really pushed NIP into this early stage. We talked about the gank, now finally going through in the bottom lane. No cleanse or flash, it was burned in the previous play, but not enough damage comes through for Photic as the response TP from the man in the mid lane follows through. LNG on their grand escape out as no one can chase up. There are no deaths, only Zhuo. And right now, Zhuo means that we are just getting teleports in to save the day.
A lot of flashes being burnt from both sides of this game, but
okay, will somebody finally die? Nature's Grasp and LP gives us blood for the blood god. Hung trying to escape with the center blade. A nice attempt, but Photic gets a kill. And Kitty for the top lane turret plating. NIP finally have a response.
Yep, NIP, Ashe has finally gotten online with her ultimate available, catches LP off guard. Even though he did have the cleanse, I believe, it just wasn't enough, and there was just follow-up from the side of NIP. 2 kills goes into the pocket of the bot lane for NIP, but of course, like you said, the Herald did get activated by Zika, and he picked up, I believe, 3 plates on this Gnar, so he's gonna have a much better time in that top. Oh, the LP burned his cleanse earlier in that scuffle that we had, where it didn't result in any kills, and Zhuo knew this. He got 1 minion and instantly ulted at the Ashe, so really good decision making from the support of NIP. And LP just kind of overextending, no summoner spells available, very greedy, And Pong also calls as a response, trying to block the Maokai ultimate.
Yeah, that was not LP's best moment when we've been talking up this 80 carries throughout the entire series. Bit of a low light coming through as off the back of the kill, Improve has been picked up by Photic. This is huge, especially with that tier stacking up, and soon will be a Muramana. Get ready for the reign of Ezreal, it feels like, as bottom lane once again for NIP is set up in a great position in Kitty. We also have first items coming across the board, really. I want to point out that is a front first.
Yeah,
from
that
Invincible.
is a frozen heart first on Invincible Sion. Very interesting. We haven't seen this so far. Most Sions usually just opt into their first mythic, which usually is the Radiant Virtue or the Jack Show. I guess he just wants to stop the Gnar from getting those auto trades in this lane, but I don't think there's going to be too much laning phase action going on. The Ashe hits once again.
Again, he has no summons available. Photic and Arcane shift into this.
He's
wondering
dead.
where the support is, but he is. The ulti flies through unawares, and that is Dwarf's finest. Our Kitty again. They just kept giving this guy Ashe.
They do just keep letting the ego down and give Zhuo his Ashe 3 games in a row where his ultimates in this series has been pretty much perfect, especially early on in the game. He finds a kill every 1 minute when his ultimate is available, and LNG, especially LP, in a very tough situation where he doesn't have his summon spells available, very, very bad. But you know, it's okay. It's still salvageable because you have Ryze and Scout on this Ryze scaling.
And you talk about the Ryze, Romov's going to come on in. Photic immediately cleanses away, but now he doesn't have the solar flare. He's dead. Big shutdown over to Scout on Big Blue Man. And that means one thing, that LNG finally get blood in this game. Kitty, he is relevant now, and I think LNG are pretty happy with the kill.
Big Blue Man is up against Big Yellow Bird.
Oh,
Not the one from McDonald's, though. Oh, is it the... No, ABC Street?
McDonald's.
Is that an Australian thing? I think
No,
that's an Australian thing.
It's definitely
you know the
not.
bird
You're talking about Big Bird. It's American.
Big Bird?
Yeah, play school
no,
is
okay.
American.
Please ignore this. Please ignore this. Ashe Arrow comes out once again. Does it hit, though? That is the question.
It does.
It hits.
Oh, my God. It just scripted itself, didn't it? Kitty, now we know that you haven't watched much Play School, but look, at the very least, willing to let you off because little dinosaur thing is going to die. Everyone's an animal in this game, and the bird just got his own bird feed, bloodbath, whatever you want to call it. He got fed.
Okay, can we just don't flame me for this, guys? I'm really upset now that I've exposed my Pepega side. But if NIP does pick up this win for this final game and Zhuo isn't the MVP, well, I'm gonna have to talk to some people after this.
Okay, well, look, maybe after this as well, we'll put an episode of Play School on as well. Get all the names out because there's a lot of references in League of Legends. I'm just going to say that right now. As Tal almost goes in for the Emperor's Divide. Photic now moves to the mid lane. Kitty, we've got some lane allocation changing around with this very big Ezreal who, as you said, is going Kraken next, actually. So the build stays true while Photic now controls mid wave and just sits here with Zhuo off in Fog of War.
Yep. Both bot laners are rotating up to this mid lane now as Herald is spawning and available on the map. But we need to do a little bit of a summoner check because Scout, he committed so many summoners when he did do that initial bot lane roam. So if NIP is really able to get their hands onto Scout in this team fight, then I'm afraid that they're going to be missing a major carry in this upcoming Herald fight.
It's happening now. Herald actually might not even be fought over at this point because it's already going down. And Two-Shot Ryze is an attempt, but Tarzan gets Herald. And it's the second Herald for LNG as well. But Kitty, there is a response here for Invincible who will get that bottom lane turret as we actually watched this arrow that set up Invincible for the kill.
Zika dashed into it. Look at this. He dashed into it. If he didn't dash, then he wouldn't have been hit. But of course, this follow-up Sion ult does come out, and poor little Zika just running towards the enemy side jungle, and he is dead after that exchange. Invincible, on the other hand, although Herald went to the side of LNG, he didn't care. He just took the entire bot side tower on his own.
Yeah, but he might be paying for it with his life because LNG know there's no turret down here. Invincible is going to be going to his own death, it feels like. Alright, a loss to be burned out, but Piper should get some HP damage down and out. While meanwhile in the mid lane, while Invincible just gets slammed into a wall, it looks like Zhuo had to burn both his summoners. So an LNG win through and through.
Yeah, I mean, Invincible is just like, don't worry guys, I'll just keep split pushing. I have the ultimate available to run away. But he instantly drove into a Leona on the face, and that of course didn't work out, and the kill goes into the hands of LNG. But a lot of things for this early game. Once again, I think NIP's early game is definitely their strongest strength, is their biggest strength. And especially on picks like Ezreal, Azir, and the Maokai, you want to be getting that early gold online. And even though the dragon is spawning in 50 seconds, you already have the initial dragon in your pocket, so you're not really afraid of a dragon soul win con just quite yet either.
Okay, good arrow.
Why is he hitting all of these? Has he missed?
No, well, to be fair though, we did have vision on that one and knew LP was backing that side of the wall, but
well.
Kitty, you're right, hasn't really missed an arrow. I think 1 out of the 10 million he's already thrown out. Zhuo is again showing where you have to respect this pick. As Kitty, speaking of dragons, 30 seconds till the next one comes up, and I'm just looking at items, seeing who's the most relevant right now. I feel like it's worth mentioning that Photic still doesn't have that Kraken in his inventory, but we do have Pout, who's had a pretty solid game so far, is close to his second item, so a lot of strength on NIP, but I could say the same with LNG, that it looks like they're pretty on par in the same vein.
Ashe ultimate is coming up very, very soon. Scout is going to join in the fight with his ultimate, but can Zika get his mega form quick enough so this fight goes in the favor of LNG? Tarzan
looking for a flank, but Blubber is going to be spotted out here. Margin Boo has to just go back. Think about whether he's going in or not. That elastic slingshot flies through just simply for the dragon. Now it's going to be up to Smite, still the 50-50 here. Here we go. At 2K, 1K is stolen as Invincible drives through to Azkaban. Now he might be caught up, locked down as the Cataclysm arrow flies through and stops LP from playing the game. But Invincible still drops down. There's the ulti that doesn't connect from Photic. It's a true shot barrage, which is a worthy attempt. He burned his cleanse in that fight, but they still got the dragon for only the loss of their top liner.
I still think all signs are just the same. They will ulti in and get caught out.
Whoa, good ulti. Out, that was beautiful considering that, he was caught out pretty hard as well. As hey, Photic gets 2, he has to flank away. Now they're jumping forward. NIP, what was this? I mean, they may have, Kitty, just thrown away the whole game off of a mid-push right after Dragon, and they lost their top laner, but they still decided to go for it.
They were so overextended in a 4v5 sense. Like you said, Invincible just gave over a free kill once the dragon has been taken away. A bit of a weird force from the top lane of NIP, but that is an overall win for this team. But I don't know why he was so far up in this lane where obviously the Shurima Shuffle wasn't able to cancel fast enough, and Pout did get focused down by the enemy team. But I mean, it was Photic that got focused down. A lot of bad things that happened to NIP where I don't think they could have taken this push anyways, because you're missing a front line.
Again, it just sets up for more gold over to LNG where, they lost that dragon, but now Kitty off the back, they got 3 kills in total. It's a 1k gold lead off the back of it too, and Scout is in such a good position. He already had a CS lead in the mid lane, but now he's got his 2 items fully stacked up on the Archangels too. Also, Zika working his way into this game where he now has a bounty. So, Kitty, we haven't talked too much about compositions here running into the mid game, but we once again have a similar one for LNG where their team fighting is just going to be stellar.
Yeah, a lot of CC, a lot of engaged tools from the side of LNG's Game 3 composition, but I'm still kind of upset that NIP threw the entire game just from overextending in that mid lane, because look at the circumstances they're in. They have 2 dragons in their pockets where you're not under the threat of a dragon soul by LNG, and LNG are the ones that are getting desperate, but you gave them the angle to come back into the game.
And again, you know, we're not saying the game's over, but as Kitty says, like, LNG now firmly back in the game, not only through those picks, but also through the control they're getting around the Baron spawn because of it. People still threatened by people like Scout as all the vision's been cleared out in the topside river. Nothing else available for 2 minutes 10, and that's going to be the Dragon number 3. So NIP now playing more defensive than you would have expected after finding themselves in a pretty decent position in the first 20 minutes of the game. But I digress. We'll wait and see what happens, because that 3rd Dragon, Kitty, that would lead to Soul Point for NIP and put them back into a position of control. Then being able to force out LNG away with this poke we talked about before.
For sure, and I just think now that Scout is completely online with his Serats and I believe Roa in his item slots, he is going to be so hard to kill for the side of NIP, because still you have a Kraken Slayer Ezreal, but is it going to deal enough damage at the 21-minute mark when I believe this build scales with 3? So you'll have to wait until he gets that 3rd item online for Scout to realistically drop some health in these team fights. But like you said, Zika on this Gnar is getting online as well, where he is going to have so much free push in the side lane, because I think Invincible on the side is looking a little bit lost, especially without the Mythic in hand and only a Frozen Heart. It's going to be a bit tough to face off the Gnar, as we see in this bottom lane. And
even if it's easier matching as well, I mean, Pout's going to do little to no damage. Not no damage, but little damage, right? We've got Force of Nature for Zika as his 2nd item as well. So further to your point, there is a CS difference, there is an item difference now as well, especially off the back of that fight. And in 40 seconds, we might be hearing about it as Dragon starts to spawn up. Just a quick note as well, tier was sold by Photic. Of course, the power is already achieved. You're talking about that 3rd item coming through, but mana cost definitely not an issue with the Essence Reaver available. 25 seconds though, Kitty. And this Dragon could be everything to define this game number 3. See if LNG stay undefeated, or if NIP can finally break that curse we were talking about earlier on.
Scout is making his way down to this 5v5 that is going to continue for this 3rd Dragon's Soul Point. Scout's ultimate.
And he's taken it as well in the choke. Is it dangerous though? As Scout just running on in. They've already found the first pick onto Pout. The mid lane is dead, but Invincible looking for a trade, but a sidestep from Scout is beautifully done. Now the kite back as the poke from NIP is starting to show itself, but they are down a member as this 3rd Dragon now spawns for LNG, looking for the taking, but the health bars are a bit risky as Scout gets stopped back. But yeah, Invincible now shoved into a wall. He can't move, and Tarzan flies into the back line. Position perfect as Zhuo untouched, but Zika flashing himself gets out of there in the nick of time as Tarzan plays a little margin boo for the time being. But hey, Scout was taken down and the health bars for NIP are still in their favor.
Yeah, this Dragon does look like it's going towards the center. NIP once again being on Cloud Soul Point. I think that fight, although Pal obviously fell very early on in that fight as he got picked up, even with the flash available, pretty unfortunate as Scout tried to create a flank with his Realm Warp, and he pulls it off successfully. Invincible did, pull off a lot of time for LNG to work around, and they just weren't able to kill the Sion. And Photic was able to just make up in that lack of damage with the Kraken Slayer build, of course also playing into the hands of a Maokai in a jungle. So that's why Xiaolongbao has always picked Maokai for these past few games. It's just so easy to win these major objective fights when you are trying to skirmish around these bushes.
And I'm just watching Photic right now as Sapling kills Scout. I was wondering how he died. Oh, yeah, no, we got to pause for that. Okay. What killed me?
What killed me?
We'll find out who it was. But at the end of the day, as you said, NIP still moved to Soul Point. NIP still running to Soul next. And hang on.
What's
the camera taking pictures of? I'm getting flashbanged. It's just for the camera. It's when the camera turns around and we just literally flashbang the audience back home. Okay, interesting stuff. At the very least, I wonder how those photos turned out.
Yeah, I hope she takes a cute photo of the stage. That is a very nice camera. But, you know, at this current stage in the game, NIP is on Dragon Soul Point, and they also have the Azir in hand. I think Pal has been consistently getting caught though, which is really bad because obviously you are that second damage source in these team fights, where they've been heavily relying on just the Maokai saplings later on in these team fights, where he has been able to execute Scout at the very end.
Yeah, look, it's been beautiful to see, again, another great Maokai game, but I feel like we say that every game. I want to point out, though, as we're in this pause, that in that last team fight, Photic carrying a bit of the load there. This Ezreal is starting to hurt a lot. And Kitty, we talked about conditions coming into this where NIP just wanted to poke down LNG, not give them the space to close the gap. That's what we saw in that last fight. We saw LNG trying to run away, and NIP's chase up and their ability to use that range was really what got them the win and set up with the low health bars to move them to Soul Point now too.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what we saw from Tarzan. We thought he got a really fat slingshot onto NIP. I think it was in the middle of 3 people, but there was just no follow-up from the side of LNG, because once you've used up your initial engage, especially like the Leona, like the Gnar, then they can't really fly across the screen alongside the Zac, and especially with Scout already using his Realm of earlier to catch Pal off misposition, and also Scout dying to the sapling at the very end, then you don't have the damage to really commit to what you want in these team fights.
As we come back to live, pause, I guess, just sort it out. I'm not sure what happened in the end, folks, but that's not what matters anymore. What matters is that Baron that's still being set up by NIP. The vision good for the time being. I'll be watching for the Dragon timer top left. Don't you worry, because it will be looking like a 29-minute Soul if NIP can get their hands on it. LNG will be forced to fight in that position as they're now hovering around Baron themselves, clearing out some of the wards and just trying to move towards it. Kitty, we are going to be at 3 items by that next Dragon as well, by the way, so I think we should start looking at the possibility of LP again on this Varus. He's been farming away carefully, but hell, even Photic, right? You talked about 3 items when he comes online with his build. That's going to be coming up too.
Lord Dominic's for that 3rd item is going to put him online when he's trying to kill the Gnar and Zac that is constantly engaging into these team fights. But you know, with the Dragon spawning in 3 minutes and Baron being available on the map, then NIP can make a decision between if they want to contest for this 4th Dragon, which is a Cloud Soul, so it wouldn't be too useful in my opinion when it does come to these team fights. I would much prefer to just threaten the Soul instead of taking it, turn, and then realistically get a 5-0 trade and go towards the Baron.
It's a good point, considering that turns so much easier for NIP with the gap closing tools that we talked about too. We're counting down that clock. We're chilling for the time being. I just love that Invincible is constantly in the camera's attention, even though nothing will ever happen down here. Our observer's just like, you know, he's got that was it 369 in the Shy yesterday, watching the wet noodle fight, and they're like, I love putting the audience through epic amounts of boredom between top laners.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, by the way, everyone. I forgot that Ezreal is supposed to build Navori nowadays, with Ezreal and Azir both enjoying that item very much. Also, a lot of buffs going into the next patch. Do you know when we're going into the next patch, by the way?
I do not. It looks like 13.1b at the moment. There's no confirmation, and I'll hold on that because we're still in 13.1, but we're still in a Baron fight as Nature's Grab slides through. LNG tried to flip this one, and Tarzan's left in the pit. Getting poked down again.
Invincible.
The range so good as Tarzan goes in, but a big old Nopen boot from Pout as he sends away the jungler. They're still on top of the Baron, but look at this range. Pout goes over the wall. Zika's coming up next, and Photic is taking care of business. He's already picked up a double, but this Ezreal is looking for more. The Arcane chips in and even gets the Baron. Photic in charge, and NIP holding strong in our final game of the series.
You can't stop Baron when you're up against a Maokai, Ashe, and Azir. You're just going to get consistently pushed off and get poked from the amount of damage that they have in this current game, where the Ezreal has picked up his Navori now for his 3rd item, and even with the Demonic Embrace and Leandrius from the Maokai, it's just unrealistic to really force and commit to the Baron without turning. Specifically for Zika, that entire fight, he wasn't Mega Gnar, he was Mini Gnar, and he ended up dying to Photic because he is just so strong in these team fights and playing with the space he is able to create as an Ezreal.
And Kitty, it's only going to get worse because Photic now has those Navori quick plays you were talking about. You hit the nail on the head about the build here, considering that Photic had many options, but we just know he's going to be pummeling through people like LP and Scout. And he's already doing enough damage where he's ahead of the curve against people like Zika, Tarzan, and Hung as well. Let's watch this play out because it's going to be soul for NIP if they can pick this up. And with that Baron, just think about what they can do to try and end this game and end that loss streak that would start LNG in their first one of the season.
I mean, you're face checking into a Sion, Maokai, and Ashe. Good luck, LNG, because this is going to be a very tough fight to take. But they have to, because this is the Dragon Soul. Although Cloud, it does help with the Maokai and Ashe when these fights engage.
Well, also going to help with other people in the follow-up, as that Swoop and Boop not finding its mark onto Powdered. Might still be enough, but Scout's still not back. Now, meanwhile, for Dragon, I think they're willing to give this up, so Soul does go over. But look, Kitty, they had the inside track to mid.
4v5, now with Scout unavailable on the map. They have to base because this is going to be an inhib going towards the side of NIP with these Baron minions coming in as well. Look at the Ashe ultimate already halfway done. They can realistically just make another force. And also, Xiaolong still has his ultimate, so be wary, LNG. You can't lose here.
I mean, Kitty, you said it before. You hit the nail on the head yet again. That NIP, they didn't have to play towards the Soul. They didn't have to force out the 50-50. Instead, they played the smart play. And now, right, might be looking to end the game. It's a jump in from Tarzan. Doesn't connect with estimating smash. Beautiful from Invincible. He really is invincible as he takes a bit of follow-up damage from LP and has to play it cool. But Photic continues to poke down as they run away. Zika with heavy charges. This Ezreal is still such a threat. Inhibitor goes down. Next, turret takes a beating. And now with this Baron buff that's almost at 4k as a power play, they're looking to get one final push with the massive built-up play for topside Kitty. This macro is genius.
I don't think we can breathe just quite yet. NIP wants more, and this top lane tower is going to go down now with the Baron minions pressuring both top and mid. How are you going to walk into your own jungle without just getting a Sion into the face? But of course, this was the original Baron that did get initiated by LNG, where they were full committing for this Baron. Hopefully, they were gonna shred it enough with the Varus and Varus and Ryze available. And Zika just wasn't in the fight. He does TP at the very end, but he's mini Gnar, so not enough CC coming out of LNG. And even so, Tarzan goes in, gets ulted back in by Pout, and they just don't have enough damage to even finish the Baron or escape the Baron pit, where Photic Giga Chad is over and just finishes the top lane of LNG.
Yeah, observers showing that he was at half HP with, as you said, no Mega Gnar either. Really rough from Zika in his third game, where last game he was definitely sizable up as an MVP alongside Tarzan. This game around, Invincible playing the shy role, no kill, but definitely still very influential on the Sion. While for NIP, off the back of that Baron power play, that was 4,000 gold, by the way. And that's about their lead right now here in game number 3. As 31 minutes crest around the corner, Invincible teleports in to try and make this end as they go forward onto Hung. He's CC'd up, but he's still not tanky enough, is he? As he flashes away, the poke there, Photic Arcane Chip. You dangerous man. He's going to die for it as well. And yeah, Scout's flank is absolutely huge. Their AD's also down, so it's winnable here, but Pout needs to be taken care of, as this Azir is doing so much with Invincible. A 3-man knock-up on the back end. Look at Pout go! In Pout versus Scout, I know that Scout's going to be having a drought, but is he out? The biggest question is whether he has any doubt. At this point, NIP, there's none for them because Kitty, they are going through the ground.
We have Will Hysterics joining us in the cast today, absolutely rapid and spitting out bars for this game 3. But like we said, Pout comes out on top by just having the amount of space he is able to create with this Azir, and LNG trying for their dear life, just executing the backline of NIP. Although Photic goes down, but I just think Azir, with his Void Staff available at this 32-minute mark, he is going to be untouchable for the Zac and Gnar, unless they look for a perfect flank angle, as Zika does have his flash available, but that is going to be something that we need to consider for later on into the game. Hung does get initially engaged on by this, and he has to flash out of the Maokai ultimate. Tarzan tries to re-engage here. Photic! He ulted, he flashed, he E'd into the Varus ultimate. Classic LPL ADC things, but of course Scout tries to come in with the Realm Wolf and execute Zhuo first of all, but just look at the amount of damage that Pout is tossing out on this Azir. Not enough follow-up.
Watch. As again we come back and you just You see the damage still flying through. Tarzan locked up yet again. Invincible, ready to charge on in. Cross and use the Shallow Barrel. Remember, this is not a tank. Maokai is full AP. So NFB have just lost their jungler, and Kitty, it's a second before Baron. It's 40 seconds before Dragon. This might be a window for LNG to stay in this game.
LNG should just take the Baron right here. You don't have the jungle available on the side of NIP, and Cloud Soul isn't too valuable for you to take either. So this is your angle to come back into the game and really start sieging as this Ryze and Varus.
They want to contest it though. LNG are not going to get this for free as Mechanical Power flies and misses through. True Shot Barrage is there as well.
Oh, so low!
From Hung as they're taking down Scout in a 5 vs 4. It's you just pounce with the ulti for Zika. About to go mega Invincible middle of the pit. Realm Warp out to the back line. Baron goes down to Tarzan, but LNG might not be escaping with their lives as LP has to run for the hills while jumping in, Zika to death. Tarzan now still the same rust as flushed away from LP. He's trying on Invincible. He takes down the Sion, and that might keep the game going on. But LNG playing yakety sacks with the purple worm.
Skull is just trying to get oh no, the arrow Scout's dead.
Zhuo. Zhuo is just appealing as a support, as the duo Q partner, whatever. Get your applications in. 1, 1, and 12 on his 100% kill percentage again.
So I'm sure you'll have a chance, don't worry.
Well, I placed squad. Maybe I shouldn't play support anymore. At the very least, Kitty, NIP with this. Look at the death timers. Can they end?
They can most definitely end, especially with the Varus and only Leona alive inside of LNG. But the Maokai ult getting to mid here. They want to look in and they want to look for their first win.
Hang on. Well, look, their second one on the board is Photic, the only one left alive. Maybe it was over-ambitious because they are now all dead apart from Photic.
They just had to kill LP and the game was over, but no. They played it too fast and LP ended up cleaning up everyone on the side of NIP. This dragon is going to go towards the side of LNG as well. That means no Elder just quite yet. But tough situation to be the side of LNG. Look at the map state. You have no outer turrets anymore. But yeah, this Baron is really weird because we see Scout, one of the main DPS, kind of splitting off to the side and he gets to 1 HP. And this Baron isn't getting finished. And you can just play for the 50-50 flip with the Zaxify available. Scout ults away and he teases back into play. And he still died at the very end because Ucal comes back up on a 30-second CD. And of course Zika falls down there. I don't think Zika has been playing too well in these team fights, especially even as the Mega Gnar. We haven't really seen a big ult from Gnar just quite yet. But we need to have something from Zika because the game has been prolonged.
But what is with this series and no one touching LP? Like,
I know,
LP...
everyone's allergic to LP.
Oh man, no one wants to win. Oh, it's so true. But look, LP is at full build, and in that last fight, Kitty able to kite around quite nicely. But on another note, no one really willing to take on the challenge. LP now with the GA too, so can play a little bit more aggressive. As we see LNG holding off in the only vision they have left on the map. And IP trying to push up, but against his defensive Baron play, it's going to take a little bit more than before for NIP to find something. As Arrow tries, and ultimate comes through from Shallow Bow, but that's about it.
LNG realistically does have the wave clear to just stop all the siege from NIP, so they have to look for a pick alongside Zhuo's ultimates. And especially with LP not having this flash available for the next 3 minutes, I think this is the angle. They're currently looking on Zika, however.
Okay, well, guess what? Zika's probably dead here. He has the TP available. He's waiting for the charge to come through. Decimating Smash can stop him as well. Zika, if he TP's out of here, it'll be an absolute blessing dodging all the CC. But the arrow first again.
One.
It's so good from Zhuo.
This man does not miss on the Ashe. Guys, just banner for the next series because this is going to be the reason why NIP is going to pick up their first series win out of 5. And up against LNG as well, who hasn't been defeated just quite yet.
Kitty It's taking a win off of LNG. It's, of course, the second series for NIP to pull up as well. But you talked about the loss streak. It ends that right here and now from NIP. They run into the base trying to end it in a 4 versus 5. The pokes coming through, but they need powders and mechanicals. Arrow hits again. These are getting easier, but at the very least, Zhuo is still not faltering. Mid wave pushing in as well. Bottom wave catching up. Top is a super minion wave that will be crashing in 2 waves time. And now NIP putting the finishing touch, trying to end LNG here. And again, like Weibo did the JDG yesterday, NIP are trying to do the same to LNG and make them bleed today.
A very slow, suffocating loss for the side of LNG as all their inhibitor towers have been taken off the board now. But Tarzan trying to just make something happen before that happens again for the mid lane tower as the supers swarm the base of LNG.
It's just only a matter of time. Dragon's coming up in 2 minutes if we get to that. Another Baron in a minute 15 as well. Scout reacting to top side wave as this was a good reset timing from NIP. As full builds come out, it's on Photic right now. We already saw it from LP earlier on. We're getting closer for Pout as well, who's picked up his 4th item in the Void Staff. I'm just looking across the board, Kitty, and see what else I can find. Zika is at that point as well, 1 away. And even Scout with the Rabadon's Death Cap, so still a chance for LNG.
I can't complain. I can't complain. You locked in the Azir and Ryze, and I'm just like, oh my god, something refreshing coming into game 3. But this game is now 40 minutes, and I'm regretting my decisions.
Yeah, look, this is why, Kitty, I think you're the first to engage from LNG. Look at the TP as well. Zika's on Gnar, but it's only on the Photic, but he's got the cleanse. The rest of the team aren't there. Zika, I can see the intentions with the GA, but might not be worth it as Tarzan jumps in the back line. Now look at the Photic, he flashes on to the left bounce, flubber, dub, but that ain't Rick, and that ain't Morty. Scout flashing into melee range, but you know what? It's gonna come down to this. Yep, he's dead, and yes, LNG are dead here too. All I was waiting for is Scout's Hail Mary, and it didn't come through with Photic pacing it out so well. And LNG finally taking blood.
Photic is the slipperiest ADC known to mankind as he escapes Tarzan and Scout consistently trying to kill him in that last team fight. But of course, NIP's loss streak finally ends here with Photic and Zhuo stepping up in this entire series up against LNG. Congratulations, NIP. I knew you guys could do it against a super team.
LNG, as Arnold Schwarzenegger said, if it bleeds, we can kill it. And NIP took those words to heart. A 2-1 over LNG is monumental for the standings. Not only just for NIP's sake, as you said, ending that curse, pushing themselves up to 2 series wins, but for LNG now 4-1. Other teams by their sides, like the IGs, the JDGs, looking at them as a little bit more approachable, and it really spices things up as we get closer and closer to the halfway point of the LPL 2023 spring.
The team of